Okay, my name is Aiden. I'm 27, I work remotely, and I've always kind of drifted in the background of my family. You know, like the person people politely acknowledge but never really include in anything important. I used to think maybe I was just being overly sensitive, like I wasn't trying hard enough. But then my brother got married, and everything just clicked. Every feeling, every time I'd been excluded, it all made sense. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't imagining it. They really did consider me expendable, I guess. To explain how it got to this point, I gotta go back a bit. My brother Josh and I are 2 years apart. He's the older one, super outgoing, the favorite, always has been. I was the nerdy kid with my computer, while Josh was the star quarterback, plastered all over the school. My parents weren't even subtle about it. When Josh got into college, they threw a huge party, invited the whole neighborhood, personalized cupcakes and everything. When I got my acceptance letter, they were out of town. I just texted them. Still, I kept trying. Birthdays, holidays, family get-togethers, I was always there. I'd be quiet off to the side, but I was there. When Josh started dating Chloe, I was truly happy for him. She seemed nice at first, a little spacey, but whatever. The first time we met, she looked me up and down and said, "Wow, you guys are nothing alike," and then just laughed. Like that was a normal thing to say, but whatever, right? I'm used to it. Josh dragged her to every single family get-together, and before I knew it, she was practically family. My folks were totally smitten with her. My cousins practically worshipped the ground she walked on. And me, I just faded further into the background. It was crazy. When they got engaged, Josh actually called me. That was a first. I figured he was gonna ask me to be in the wedding, you know. Best man, maybe not, but at least a groomsman. We're brothers after all, nope. He just said, "Hey, we're sending out invites next week. Just wanted to make sure you got one." That was it. No role, no nothing, just an invite, like I was some random work buddy. I told myself to chill, to not read into it. The wedding was in late spring at this vineyard way out in the country, about an hour's drive. The pictures looked amazing. I rented a tux, got them a really nice present, a custom espresso machine, engraved with their initials. Chloe was obsessed with coffee, and I'd saved up for months for it. I even wrapped it in this fancy black and gold paper with a satin ribbon. It felt like my last chance to, like, matter, you know? Like maybe if I gave the perfect gift, they'd finally say, "Hey, Aiden, we really appreciate you." The day finally came. I drove myself alone in my old clunker while everyone else was posting Instagram stories from their fancy party bus. I wasn't mad, just used to it. I signed in at the welcome table, and this girl looked at my name, did a double take, and said, "Oh, you're Aiden, right? Here's your place card." It wasn't a fancy card, you know, just a sticky note. My name, Aiden, scribbled in blue ink, kind of smeared. No last name, no table number, nothing. I thought it was a joke, maybe someone forgot something. She pointed toward the restrooms, saying, "You're over there." So I went around the corner, and there it was, a folding chair. Not one of those comfy white ones, but a rusty gray metal thing that creaked just from me touching it. It was facing a brick wall, practically in the kitchen's back alley. I could hear the staff banging around with trays. No fancy decorations, no nice tablecloth, nothing. Just me and that noisy bathroom fan humming away. I stood there a minute holding my gift, completely baffled. Maybe it was a mistake, right? Someone messed up big time. I turned around, heading back towards the party, and that's when I saw Chloe. She was laughing with her friends. One of them saw me and elbowed Chloe. Chloe looked, gave me a smirk, and said, real casual like, "We figured he'd be okay. Out of sight, out of mind." Her friends all snickered. It was like some kind of inside joke. And right then I knew it wasn't an accident. I looked around. Every distant relative, old neighbor, heck, even some guy I barely remembered from high school had way better seats, fancy centerpieces, and real name cards. Someone even brought their dog with a personalized bandana. But me? A sticky note by the bathroom. My throat felt like it was on fire. It wasn't rage, not at first, but a total sense of vanishing. Not ignored, but like I'd been wiped out. I went back to the chair, put the espresso maker on it, and stopped. Something inside me just broke. Not a loud crash, but finally. I grabbed the present again, fixed the bow, and started for the door. No words, no screaming. Just a quiet walk to try and get back some respect they'd tried to hide under that stupid note. As I got to the parking lot and unlocked my car, I heard someone hurrying after me. "Aiden, wait, hold on." It was Josh. His tie was messed up, his face red, hand out like I was going to hug him or something. "What are you doing?" he gasped. "You're leaving." I didn't even turn all the way around, just looked at him over my shoulder and said, "Guess I'm not really family, huh?" He blinked like I'd punched him. "What are you talking about?" I laughed, but it wasn't funny. "You put me by a bathroom, Josh, on a folding chair with a sticky note as my name tag. Chloe arranged the seating." He stumbled over his words. "Yeah, and you let her." For a second, he just stood there. Then, like he was trying to save the whole thing with a throwaway line, he said, "Come on, don't make a scene. This is my wedding." I looked down at the espresso machine, then back at him. Exactly. And I opened my car door, but before I could get in, he said something that made me freeze. His voice got soft, like he wasn't sure. "Wait, was that our gift?" I didn't say anything. I hopped in my car, fired up the engine, and drove off. I didn't go straight home that night. Nope, I drove and drove, far past the city lights, out into the dark, quiet highway. I didn't even cry or scream or anything. I just kept replaying all those times I was the last to know, the last one invited, the last one anyone seemed to notice. And then, somewhere between the drone of the tires and the stillness of the road, a plan started forming in my head. They had absolutely no clue how much that espresso machine really cost me. I mean, not just in dollars, but in all the work, the hope, the love I poured into it. And they had no idea I wasn't giving up. I stayed away for a few days. I turned my phone off, booked a little cabin upstate a place I'd been to before on my own. I just needed some peace and quiet. It overlooked this beautiful, still lake. The water was like a mirror reflecting the sky. It was so peaceful, so wide open, it felt like something I hadn't experienced in ages. I sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, with the espresso machine beside me on a little table, like it was my best pal, still perfectly wrapped, untouched. Every time I looked at it, my jaw clenched. It wasn't the kind of anger you see in movies, all shouting and red faces. Mine was quieter, more like organized, like I was calmly filing things away in my brain, and that's when it hit me. Josh wasn't the whole problem, not really. It was always the way my family worked, favoring some and ignoring others, all built on years of unspoken stuff. And Chloe, she was just the latest one to get caught in it. She didn't start this whole mess. Man, she really poured gasoline on the fire. When I finally turned my phone back on, I had a ton of texts. Mom was all, "Hope you didn't get lost. We saved you some food." Dad just wanted to know where I'd been. It was my brother's big day, after all. Josh texted, "Dude, I had no idea she stuck you back there. I would have straightened it out. Seriously, if you're gonna be dramatic, at least disappear completely." That one actually made me chuckle. I didn't answer any of them, though. I kept scrolling and saw a message from my cousin Aaron. He's the only one who ever treated me like I was more than just Josh's little brother. It was short, but it meant the world. He said, "I saw where they put you. That was messed up. So sorry." I just texted back, "Thank you." That's all I needed from him. When I finally drove home, it wasn't some pouty thing. I had a plan, and for once it didn't involve keeping my mouth shut. My first move, checking my records. See, I've been running the behind-the-scenes stuff for my parents' business for years. Billing, client stuff, the whole shebang, nothing official, just helping out like a good kid. Never got paid, never even asked. But I had access to everything. I'm the one who fixed their website when it got hacked a couple years back. I'm the one who moved all their old client info to the cloud. And I'm the one who filed all the paperwork when they forgot to renew their business license. They never even said thanks. I built this whole quiet digital record, and they never gave it a second thought. They thought I was a nobody, totally invisible. But that was about to end. So I spent a few days gathering stuff, receipts, timesheets, computer backups, even old invoices I'd made myself. I printed everything, got it all organized, and labeled it neatly. It wasn't about suing them, I swear. I didn't want their money. I just needed proof. I needed to see it all laid out, and I wanted them to see it too. Then I sent one email to our family group chat, attaching a file called From the Background. The email was short and sweet. "Hi, everyone. This document shows everything I've done for the family business the last 6 years' time, work, tech help. It adds up to over 1,400 hours. I'm sending Mom and Dad a proper invoice, just to be clear. I don't expect payment, honestly, I never did. But I'm done helping. If you need it, I know some good people. Oh, and Chloe, thanks for putting me by the bathroom. That made a huge difference. Later, Aiden." No yelling, no drama, just the facts. That's what really stung, I think. Their replies were a total panic. Mom was all, "Aiden, this isn't necessary. We're family." Dad said, "Is this about the wedding? You're overreacting, Chloe." And Josh chipped in, "I didn't realize tech support came with an ego. Please don't do this. Let's talk." I didn't answer. The next week, the family business website crashed. They were clueless about how to fix it. Their backup. It hadn't been touched in ages because they figured I'd take care of it like always. The phone started ringing off the hook. Deadlines were flying by and the stress was insane, but I still didn't say a word. That was just the beginning, though. Chloe had no idea. There was something else, something Josh probably spaced or never even knew about. The espresso machine. I got my hands on it. It wasn't just a fancy machine. It was seriously exclusive. I had a friend who's a programmer, and he knew someone at this tiny Italian company that made them. Each one had a serial number and a secret code to unlock all the fancy features and the warranty. And guess who had that code? I waited a whole month, then I hopped onto their website and just deactivated it. Poof! The touchscreen was suddenly just making regular coffee. No fancy settings, no voice control, nothing. Just a $1,500 drip coffee maker. I knew Chloe would flip. A week later, I got a text from some unknown number. It said, "This is childish, grow up." No name, naturally, but I knew exactly who it was from the way it was written. I just stared at it for a second, then blocked the number. But that wasn't the end of it. One of Josh's best men, Nico, messaged me out of the blue. He'd seen what happened at the wedding, and apparently he wasn't as Team Chloe as everyone thought. He told me something wild about the wedding venue. It looked familiar to me, and it turned out I knew why. I'd seen that place in a real estate database I helped build for a client last year. Turns out that vineyard wasn't a public place at all. It was someone's private property. So they snagged the place through a connection, a favor to Chloe's family. Little did she know I'd actually bought the place not too long before. Well, technically, me and a tech buddy were in on it together. We'd quietly scooped up a few rural spots for an AI startup retreat idea, and the vineyard was one of them. We hadn't gotten around to the official rebrand, but I still had a stake in it and could see all the property stuff. That meant I knew something Chloe didn't. Their wedding was actually on my land. And when I clued into that, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I waited until a calm Thursday in the middle of the month. No holidays or anything to mess with the timing, nothing to water down the whole thing. I printed an official-looking envelope with Chloe and Josh's names on it. No return address, just the vineyard's new logo in the corner, Juniper Crest Holdings. Inside was a letter all notarized and signed. It said, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Carver, after our property review, we noticed an unsanctioned event was held at the Juniper Crest estate on your wedding day. No formal paperwork was done, and no payment was made to the current owners. Per our rules, unauthorized use of the property, including the commercial photography, guest stay, and catering, will result in a retroactive event fee. Please send the enclosed invoice for $12,800 within 30 days to avoid collections. Thanks for your cooperation." I had it sent over, delivered by a guy on a motorcycle. Now, just so we're clear, I wasn't actually gonna send this to a collections agency. That would have been a whole legal headache. But I knew Chloe, you know. I knew how she freaked out when things weren't going her way. And I knew Josh. I figured he'd read every single word of it a bunch of times before he even dared to call me. The best part was, there was a waiver in the guest book file at the venue. A waiver Chloe herself had signed, saying no money was owed because of a deal she'd made with the previous owner, which wasn't even valid once the property changed hands 2 weeks before the wedding. I gave them a time limit. Then I just waited. 3 days later, my phone went off. I let it ring 4 times before picking up. I already knew who it was, of course. Josh sounded totally stressed. "Aiden, please tell me this is a joke," he said. I didn't say anything. "We didn't know," he added, sounding really desperate now. "Chloe's uncle set it up. It was all supposed to be taken care of, man." I asked, keeping my voice even. "You didn't bother to check who the place actually belonged to? You're really charging us for our own wedding?" he asked, like I'd completely lost it. I let out a short, kinda bitter laugh. "Oh, I'm not charging you. The management is." There was a long silence. "Then you're doing this to get back at us?" I just said, "Nope. I'm just reminding you I'm still here, and next time somebody hands you a note with my name on it, maybe don't act like you're doing me a favor." I was speechless, honestly. He just kind of mumbled something about talking to Chloe and hung up the phone. It felt good, I'll admit, but I wasn't finished. A week later, I sent my parents a box of care package, you know? Inside was this fancy binder all marked up with the title, "Just So You Know." It had every single bill, every little task, every single time I fixed their computer stuff for their business over the past 6 years. I even highlighted the parts where I'd fixed their website for free or did their taxes when they forgot, or the time I stayed up until after midnight on Christmas Eve to fix their payment system. On the last page, I stuck a note. It was simple. "I'm not doing this anymore, but I thought you might want to keep these records." I didn't expect a thank you. Hell, I didn't expect any response, but I got one. Mom called first. I didn't answer. Then Dad left a voicemail. It started with, "Now hold on a minute, this is incredibly ungrateful," and ended with, "You're still family whether you like it or not." I deleted it. And then Chloe's epic meltdown happened. She posted this whole long, angry thing on Instagram about family betrayal, how some people would destroy everything just for attention. She made herself out to be the victim, humiliated, disrespected, even charged for her own wedding. Like she hadn't shoved me into a bathroom. I almost didn't say anything. Almost. But then I remembered something. Josh and Chloe had a wedding website. It was all fancy, minimalist style with a spot for guest photos and that public review thing. So I left a 5-star rave. The place was gorgeous, the bathrooms were super clean, and the acoustics. Amazing, I could hear everything the kitchen staff was saying, and they totally nailed the seating chart. It was like they knew me. Seriously, I felt so seen. I recommended the place, especially if you're into that ironic poetry scene. Then bam, my post went viral. College buddies, family I hadn't talked to in ages, even some of Chloe's old high school friends were commenting, all those crying, laughing emojis. Someone shared it on Facebook. Another person took a screenshot and added like some petty king caption. Within 2 days, Chloe had shut down the comments on everything. Josh called again. This time I picked up. No yelling, no threats, just this exhausted sound in his voice. He said Chloe was talking about getting lawyers involved. Well, maybe she should read that waiver she signed, I told him. You really went all in on this, huh? I finally said, letting the calm crumble. You let her humiliate me at your wedding. You knew exactly where they put me, you knew how she treated me, and you did absolutely nothing. He didn't even try to deny it. We just sat there, silent, for what felt like forever. Then, barely a whisper, he said, I thought you wouldn't care. I didn't used to, I told him. But that's the thing about being invisible. Eventually you stop waiting for people to notice you and start figuring out ways to make sure they do. He never said anything back, not right then anyway. It took 3 whole months for things to calm down, the family group chat, basically a desert at that point. No more of those slightly out-of-focus pics from Sunday brunch, the ones I wasn't invited to. Nope. Look what Josh and Chloe whipped up. The photos showed charcuterie and grins, and where my spot used to be there was just nothing. For the first time ever, I wasn't just on the outside looking in. I was the one who'd actually walked away. And the quiet that followed, it was the most chill kind of quiet I'd ever felt. But the consequences still had a ripple effect. A few weeks after that review blew up, I got an email from this wedding blog, RealVal. Someone had sent them my comment, and they wanted to do a whole feature on wild wedding stories that went viral. I said no, obviously. That wasn't what I was going for. I wasn't after a quick burst of fame. I was after, like, 15 years of figuring things out, and I had it now. The espresso machine, though, it just sat there in my kitchen, still in its fancy black and gold wrapping with the satin ribbon. I thought about giving it away. Maybe Aaron, my cousin, who was the only one who actually checked in on me without any hidden motives. But I ended up selling it. I put it up on this site for collectors, explained why it was never used, and I still made a good amount of money off it. I took that cash and booked a flight to Tokyo. I'd always dreamed of going, but could never justify the cost. That was the kind of thing Josh would do on a whim. 3 weeks backpacking through Southeast Asia and then nothing. Never a postcard. Me, I needed reasons. I needed someone to give me the go-ahead, but not anymore. I crashed in a capsule hotel close to Shibuya, strolled through those crazy, glowing streets, loaded up on tons of matcha goodies, and didn't pick up one phone call from back home. This was the first trip ever where I didn't feel like I was escaping something. I was just gone, and honestly, it was perfect. When I got back, there was a letter waiting for me. It was a real one, handwritten on thick, fancy ivory paper. My parents' stationery. It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was something. It said, Dear Aiden, your mother and I have been doing a lot of talking since the wedding, and it's been awkward. Not just because of what happened, but because of what it showed us. We had no idea how left out you felt, and that's probably because we never even asked. We always figured you were independent, quiet, and low-key. We figured you didn't need anything from us. Now we realize that was just us making an excuse for not giving you anything. We've cut back on helping Josh and Chloe financially. We think it's time he figures things out for himself, just like you did. This whole thing has made us think about how we raised you both. We're not writing this to fix anything, just to say we're sorry. If you're up for it, we'd like to have you over for dinner. Just you? No hidden plans, no Chloe. No big family gathering, just us. We'll be here, love, Mom and Dad. I didn't burst into tears. I didn't immediately write back. I just stared at that letter for a long time, then put it back in the envelope and slipped it into my desk drawer. Maybe this was progress, forgiveness, forget about it. It wasn't like I could just turn it on, just because someone saw the light. A week later, who shows up at my place? Josh. I didn't ask him over, didn't even let him in. He just waited down in the lobby until someone else left, then started banging on my door. Hard, fast, like he always did. When I opened it, he looked rough, skinny, washed out, like someone finally told him he wasn't the big shot anymore. I'm not here to fight, he said, holding his hands up like I was going to hit him. Not even here to stick up for Chloe. Well, that was new. That's a first, I said. He scratched the back of his neck. She moved out. That surprised me. What? She says I made her look bad, he mumbled, that I should have done more to stop you, that I was on the wrong side. And were you? I asked. He actually looked at me then, really looked for the first time in ages. Yeah, he said. I didn't say anything. I let her use you, he went on, his voice breaking, like some extra person she could use, and I didn't just stand by. I helped her do it because it was easier than facing what we've been ignoring for years. He reached into his coat and pulled out a plain white envelope. This time, no threats, no invoices. I sold the espresso machine, he said. After you broke it, used the money to pay back the vineyard bill. I didn't want to keep anything that came from a lie. He gave me the envelope. I opened it, and there was a check inside, not the whole amount, but close. It's not payment, he said. It's acknowledging things. I nodded. You can keep it. Why? It wasn't about the money, I told him. Never was. He just stood there, shifting around, not knowing what to do. Do you hate me? He finally asked. I glanced away, looking out the hallway window where the sun made long, clean lines on the floor, the kind of light that shows everything as it is. No, I said, but I don't trust you, not yet. He just nodded like that's fair. He started to walk away, then stopped. Can I ask you something? Sure. Did you really have to put that review on our wedding website? I smiled. Dude, you put me next to a toilet, Josh. That review was the nicest thing I wrote. He actually laughed. Just once, and it wasn't that usual arrogant laugh. It sounded real. He didn't ask to come back in, and that felt like a beginning. Over the next few months, things didn't magically get better. My parents had me over for dinner, and I went. But I brought my own plate, seriously, a little ceramic thing I got in Tokyo, a little reminder that I didn't need to be taken care of. I could handle it myself. Josh and I text sometimes now. We aren't back to being close, not yet. Just two guys trying to meet in the middle. Chloe, I haven't heard from her since. She blocked me everywhere, even LinkedIn, which honestly was a bummer. The family still gossips. Aaron says they're all messed up, confused, not sure who to back. But I don't care about any of that anymore because for the first time ever, I'm not just a shadow. It's me, the writer, and I've begun working on chapters where I just jump right in. I'm not sitting around, hoping to be asked to join the narrative anymore. I'm already present.